Welcome to Travel Noir's monthly Google Plus Hangouts. My name is Zim Ugochukwu, and I am the founder and CEO of Travel Noir. For those unfamiliar to Travel Noir, we are a digital publishing platform that creates tools and resources for the unconventional traveler. If you've watched our Google Plus Hangouts before and love them, or if you're joining us for the first time, do us a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once you subscribe, you'll receive updates whenever we upload a new video, including our huge announcement in about a week and a half on November 5th. Today's chat is called Travel Fund 101, Master the Art of Saving. Join the conversation on Twitter and Instagram by using the hashtag TNFund to share some of your favorite funding tips. Now we're going to get on to the good stuff. We have 4 amazing curators who will be giving you a brief introduction. From there, we'll dive into the questions and save our Q&As for the end. Tracy, we were going to start with you. If you could just give your name, what you do, and where you currently are located.
I'm Tracy Coleman. In my day job life, I'm an associate creative director at an advertising agency in New York City, and I'm currently in Houston visiting family.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone.
All right, and Jamie?
Hey everybody, my name is Njami Njai. I am a multimedia producer, so I freelance with videography, writing, and photography, and I am based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Miriam?
Hello everyone, my name is Miriam Ejide. I'm a full-time student. I'm 24 years old, and I work as a CNA at Huntsville Hospital.
Nice. And Larry?
Hello, everyone. My name is Larry Williams. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. That's where I'm currently at. I work for eBay. I'm an account specialist, and I'd like to thank everybody for joining the Hangout.
All right. Awesome. So let's get started. This first question is for Njami. So, Njami, you've been traveling since the age of 9. You spent as an exchange student when you were 16, and you've been taking international solo trips since then. How did you financially prepare for your trips as a young adult and as a student?
Well, the whole traveling since I was 9 part is a little bit of it's a little bit of a fib. It's true, but I didn't have to like front the bill for that. So I started paying for my own travel in college, spring breaks to Florida, Mexico, stuff like that. But I think even though I wasn't paying for my flights and stuff at an early age, growing up traveling just taught me that money doesn't grow on trees. What you leave with, you have to manage well, and it just taught me how to be very frugal and kind of responsible with my money from a young age, and that's kind of carried into my travels today.
Awesome. So Tracy, you've done medical missionary work in Jamaica, and most volunteers have to cover their own costs. Which resources do you think best helped you prepare for this challenge, and are there funds that are specifically designated for volunteers?
Well, luckily that trip when I went to Jamaica was through my university. I went to Florida State University, and it was a medical program, and so a lot of it was covered, but we had to raise money and also raise medicine, obviously. So time again, I was only parents friends do. So I was asking sort of older people to help out for the cause. And then at the time, again, social media wasn't as big, but now people I know that are volunteering or are really tapping into the power of social media. So Kickstarters, you see lots of those. People who are trying to go away. I have a friend that was volunteering in Madagascar. She used Kickstarter. And then you can also, there's a website called Volunteer Forever that has tons and tons of resources for grants and scholarships specifically for volunteering.
Awesome. Another book that I think could be helpful for those who are watching, I've mentioned this on a couple of the other Google Plus Hangouts, is Delaying the Real World by Colleen Kinder. It's probably $1.50 in Amazon. It has all of the volunteer opportunity links, and it tells you more about each individual program, but it's literally chock full of all the resources that you need if you want to take the volunteer route. So moving on to Larry, you've eaten shark in Puerto Rico, you visited France and dabbled in the art of cheese. You clearly have a penchant for food. How are you able to indulge in all of these things while on a budget?
The key thing is, as an individual, knowing what you spend the majority of your money on. And for me, I love to eat. So a lot of times if I'm, taking these trips, I'm putting away a lot of money just to eat, eat good, because, if you're in these different countries and different cities, you want to try the delicacies that they have there. And I think also another key thing is, so say for example, when I went to Paris, I planned ahead of all the places that I wanted to go to, such as, the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre, and take a cruise along the Seine River. A lot of these, especially like the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre, if you go to their website, you're able to purchase the tickets 3, 4, 5 months in advance. So, on a paycheck, if you, go to the website for the Eiffel Tower and you can get a ticket to go to the top for $16, boom, purchase that, get that out the way, then each paycheck do something new. So one paycheck you've already purchased to go to the Eiffel Tower. The next ticket, next paycheck, I pay for the Louvre, which is $18, $20, which is really nothing, especially with as soon as you get paid, go to the website, purchase it, boom, out the way, done. It's $20 that you're not going to miss, but once you get over to Paris, it's $20 that was well worth spent. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Great advice. So Miriam, you are currently a nursing student, and your top goal is to travel the world professionally. What funds or funding resources are available for medical healthcare professionals?
Okay, so I came up with 3 main avenues that any student or healthcare professional can utilize in order to either save or raise money for a trip. The first one is through travel nursing. Most nursing students or people that are already nurses know about travel nursing. It's mainly traveling around the United States. They have international travel nurses, but I'll focus on traveling in the United States. I'll use my mom as an example. She did travel nursing for a couple of years, and what they do is they recruit nurses for nursing shortages. So it can be either in California, Colorado, Texas. They recruit nurses. The timeline, it can be from between 3 and 6 months. So the perk is they take care of everything. So it's a great way to save money if you want to travel. So you're gone for 3 months. They're taking care of your rent, your transportation while you're over there, and they're taking care of your living expenses. So you're not putting out any money whatsoever. And then they're paying you buku money on top of that. So it's a great way for nurses in particular to save money. Maybe maybe do a 3-month stint while they're traveling, and then be able to go on an international trip and come back and do another travel nursing gig. The next one, I think she mentioned something about medical missionaries, and you can incorporate a service project into your personal trip. There are different ways to fund that. I'm going to mention GoFundMe. It's a good way to raise money if you're trying to go overseas and do medical missionaries. Or I have a friend that actually came back from Tanzania, and she mentioned that her sorority actually contributed a lot of money because she went over there and they contributed to, I believe, a baby shelter or something like that. So it's a good way to be able to get money from your family, your friends, or organizations, different things like that. And last, you can join the Peace Corps, where they have stints from 3 months to 2 years, and they're basically, they say it's a volunteer, but they're giving you a stipend every single month for your living expenses. So it's a good way to save money while you're over there, and you can live pretty frugally and be able to save money and come back after your 3 or 2 year stint and be able to travel with the money that you save from that. So those are just different avenues you can use to save money while you're traveling, especially in the healthcare field or for any student that's looking into that.
Right, very cool. So we are going to dive into our questions. This one is a pretty interesting question for everyone. What is the most drastic measure you've taken to fund a travel dream?
I guess I'll start. So last year I quit my job to travel. I didn't know what was going to happen after I traveled, but I just knew I kind of needed to do something different. So I was a teacher. I got the idea to travel in February, and I knew I was going to get paid through July. So I had a few months to kind of save enough money to get me through my travels and however long it was going to take to find me a job after. So I took a couple of extra jobs. I took a job coaching track and field, and then I took another job coaching teachers, training new teachers in Chicago, and that helped me raise about almost $7,000 in that few months.
Gotcha. And how did you figure out that what was your thought process behind getting an extra job? Did you just see the sort of skill set that you had and you sort of reached out and tried to figure out what areas were open for you to sort of apply, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, as a teacher, I was lucky in that there were a lot of activities around me that I could kind of easily fall into a second job, like the coaching. They needed an assistant track coach at my school. I did track when I was growing up. Boom, that's kind of an easy fit right there. And then with the training teachers, with my experience in the classroom, I was able to apply and get a job training teachers in Chicago. So, I was looking at my skill set, like you said, and then kind of making a couple of time sacrifices for a trip that ended up being awesome in the end.
Right. Anybody else want to chime in?
So I think the most drastic measure I've had to take, last year was my first time going to Europe, and at that time I was working two full-time jobs. I was working from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at one job, and then I would go straight from one job to another from 4 to midnight. I didn't really get a lot of sleep. I didn't do a lot between that. I think it was 6 or 7 months that I was working both jobs. I think that was the most drastic because those 6 months I was crazy. It's not something I probably would, do again because, since then I've learned how to, save better, and I've learned how to, cut back on certain expenses that I really didn't, need to do at the time. So wouldn't recommend working two full-time jobs.
All right, so let's move on to the next question. This is for Tracy and Jamie and Larry. What is the first step that somebody would take before beginning to save? Or what do you need to do, like a financial audit? Do you need to look at where your money is being spent, where it's coming from? What are some of the first steps that somebody should take when they're just starting their travel fund?
I'll start. I mean, the first thing I do, honestly, is start tracking your flight. So even if you are traveling 6 months from now, that's not too early just to put a tracker on whether you use Kayak or Hitmonk or whatever. Just start an alert so that even if you're not ready yet, even if you don't have the money yet, you know a ballpark of how much you're going to spend. And I know on Kayak it tells you like whether that's, it's high for now or that's kind of low. You can start tracking that and okay, maybe by 3 months from now, I need to have this amount of money. So that way you don't feel the sense of urgency. You're kind of, where you stand. You can start to save up from there. So that's just one tip, to start doing that before you even get the money.
Gotcha. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think the order I do this in kind of fluctuates, but definitely setting a goal, like having a number that you want to hit and that you're kind of watching your money stack up to get to that goal. And then also definitely doing a rundown of your finances. Like for me, it's important to know where my money is going so that I can kind of cut out some of those extra expenses when I need to.
Awesome. Go ahead, Larry.
The first step I do is to actually pick a date. Pick the actual date of where you want to go. Because if you have that date in mind, you can start your budget and you can really, do it month by month to understand how much you need to put aside each month to reach that goal of say, for example, if you want to go to Asia next June, you know that between now and June, how many months you have, if you get paid every week, if you get paid twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month, you know that you can set up a budget, and you're able to track it. So you know exactly, when you need to buy your flight by, when you need to book the hotels, when you need to do the tour. So I think the most important thing is just putting a date and locking it in. Because from experience, I have a lot of friends who they say, oh, I want to go here someday, or I want to go here next year. But because they didn't put that date in, next year comes by so fast, and it's like, oh, I guess I got to wait till next year because I didn't save up. So I think it's just picking that date, getting that out the way first.
Got you. Okay, so once somebody sets up their travel fund and they get that first step going, what are some of your tried and true tips or rules that you have when it comes to saving for travel?
Oh my gosh, make it automatic. I mean, hands down. I mean, I will sit here and be fully honest and say I'm not the most financially responsible person. Like budgets, what does that even mean? I think that, so for me personally, if that's you, then make it automatic. Like you don't even want to see the money. So for me, the money comes out every week actually, out of my account automatically. I don't save for trips. I'm always saving, so it never stops. So whether I have a trip coming up or not, the money is coming out every single week. So I think that if anything, you won't have to sort of scramble every time, like, oh, I want to go here, or I decided I want to go there this summer. You're not scrambling to get that money to set it up because you're already saving. So if there's one thing I would ever say, make it automatic. Whether it's every 2 weeks, whether it's your paycheck, whether it's every week, whatever you need to do, if it's $1 a day, whatever that thing is, make it come out so you're not having to do something, because if you have to do it, you'll forget.
Right. Anybody else?
Well, yeah, to contribute to that, I just recently, I had a savings account open already, and I was going to open another one for my travel fund, but the guy at the bank told me that I can just hide my savings account from myself on my app, on my phone, and I didn't know that. So basically we went in there, and he was like, I can't see my savings account. I have a percentage of my paycheck coming out of my checking account every 2 weeks. So I just hid it for myself. When I look on my phone, there's no way for me to transfer funds into my checking account if I, get into trouble or whatever. So it makes it more difficult for me to get my hands on that savings account money.
What bank is that?
This is just Wells Fargo.
Okay.
And you can just go online, and there's an option to hide your savings account from yourself on your phone, or whatever other account you have.
Nice. Anybody else have some of their favorite tips when it comes to saving up for travel?
So what I do is I have 2 different bank accounts that I have set up for travel, and the cards that are associated with those bank accounts, I lock them in. I have a drawer that has a key. I lock it in there. It's not in my wallet. I don't touch it. I forget about it. Nothing to do with it. Even if it's an emergency, I never touch those cards. They just stay in that drawer until it's time for me to, go where I need to go. So if you're one of those, people that you see things and you want to buy it, but you want to travel, I would suggest just open up a separate account, take that card, lock it away from yourself so you can't touch it or spend that money.
I don't even have a card. I think my money is somewhere in a cloud somewhere. If I had a card, I think I would actually spend the money. So I think, if it's the harder it is for you to get that money, and also longer lead time, there's some accounts, usually the high yield accounts, that takes 3 days to get the money anyway. So that's where my money is, and in one of those. And so even if I have an urge to buy something, I have 3 days to tell myself it's not worth it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think Tracy brought up a good point. I think your travel fund, and I don't necessarily do this all the time, but I don't think your travel fund should be like a one-trick pony type of thing. Like, if you keep like a healthy balance, or as healthy as you can, it's not like, okay, I'm going to save this money and go on this one trip, and then I'm back to square one again. If you kind of try to keep it fresh, that's more incentive to add to it, because now you have the flexibility and the freedom to take a trip whenever you want, and not just when you've stacked a certain amount of money.
Right, absolutely. I used to make my my trip purchases based on my. I mean, obviously, so I would try and spend the money in my travel fund and not even touch my checking or anything like that. So if I went on the flight deal and I saw a cheap flight to wherever, and I looked at my travel fund, if I had enough money to sort of support that entire trip, that that's where I was going. And so I think that both of you all are hitting the nail on the head when you're talking about that continual savings process. So just because that trip is over doesn't mean that your automatic draft should stop. It should just continue on into the future. So I think you both brought up really good points. So we're going to hop over into resources, and this is for Tracy and Miriam. If any one of you all wants to hop in, feel free. The first question is: are there any apps or websites that you use to track your travel fund savings?
Mint.com. Mint.com is a website and they have an app. It's a good way to keep tabs on all your checking and savings account, and I think there's a way for you to create budgets on there and track all your spending that's coming out of your accounts too. So that's a really good one.
Yep, I would co-sign that. I use Mint as well. Mint's nosy though. They'll tell you like, oh, you're over budget. I'm like, get out of my business. Like, I think it's good. Yeah, you need that. So Mint's a really good one. Even though they do have some challenges with linking your accounts. There's another one I found recently called Unsplurge. It's not as it doesn't link your accounts as well as Mint does, but what it does is it links you with other people. So it creates a community of people who are also saving as well. So you can see like, so-and-so just reached their goal of whatever dollars to get on this trip to wherever. So it's like, oh, you can kind of be motivated. So you're not the only one feeling like you're trying to save up for a trip. So those two together with sort of two ways to sort of, you have the financial one and you have the more social one that kind of helps people cheer you on your way.
Awesome. Any other apps or websites or anything like that? Anybody else?
I'm a Mint user myself.
Everybody's Mint.
Yeah, I use it as well, so yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, so now we're going to hop into banks. Which banks have you used to either start or support your travel fund? Me personally, I love Charles Schwab. Just because it doesn't have any international fees. So if I were to take, my card and go abroad, I wouldn't have to transfer any money into a card that doesn't have any international fees or anything like that. But do you all have any special sort of experience with banks that you really like?
Mine is pretty run-of-the-mill. I use PNC, and I guess I don't know if other banks have this, but I guess the cool thing with them is that you have like a spend account, you have a growth account, and then a savings. So it's kind of like a bunch of backup accounts. So if anything, happens to one while you're traveling to your spend account, the money from the next account kind of automatically flows into it. So it's a good little buffer system.
Nice.
I used ING Direct, which I believe got bought by Capital One, but like I said, it's one of the high yield savings accounts, and it's so hard to get to that it makes it harder for me to spend the money. So I also keep that very separate from my regular savings account. It's important to keep those things separate. So my travel account is over here in I have Immigrant Direct, I have ING Direct, and I have my day-to-day, which is Bank of America. But I will say this, Citibank gives you thank you points. So whether you're traveling or whatever, everything you do with Citibank, be it pay a bill or book a flight or whatever, you can accrue thank you points doing a lot of different things. And so if there were one bank that sort of lets you sort of rewards you for what you're doing, that is Citibank. I don't use them specifically for this because it's just too easy, but that's one that kind of rewards you for your work.
Got you. And what options do students, professionals, researchers have for saving for travel? Does it look different at every stage?
Well, I will say my brother has been trying to drill the art of delayed gratification into my head for years now. You would think I would have mastered it by now, but I haven't. But I feel like that's the first step in anybody trying to save for travel or whatever it is, you have to master the art of delayed gratification, and which is basically the idea of resisting the temptation to basically buy those shoes or buy, coffee every single morning, knowing that you have a goal in mind you have a goal to reach, whether it's traveling, for the next 6 months, or you're planning a trip in the future. Being able to cut out those immediate rewards so you can have money to spend when you're overseas or wherever you're going.
I think the best advice, I really want to talk to my fellas here because they really would understand, especially when it comes to shoes. I want y'all to think about all the Jordans that y'all buy each month, all the Nikes. Think about that. $150, $200, $220. Sometimes it's 2 pairs of Jordans that come out of each month. So I want you to just try to calculate that $400 a month, $200 a month, and just think about, instead of buying those Jordans, that $200 you can use for a flight to go to your dream destination. Because especially if you're in college and you have those, you get the money back from the school. Don't use it and just blow it away. Use it for an opportunity that'll change your life. And the thing that I've learned about traveling, the more I do it, the more I grow as a person. And it's kind of hard to explain that, but the awareness that you get out of life when you're traveling to these different places is priceless. And it's worth the money. With the Jordans and stuff like that, every person in the inner city could get a pair of Jordans. But how many people can say, oh, I've been to this place, I've been to that place, and it changed me as a person. So, before you go in that store and drop $200, $300 on them Jordans, just think about, what you could be, what other things you could be doing with that money, because definitely helps out.
To add to that, speaking of the refund checks, that's what we did when we were in undergrad. Me and my friends, when planning for spring break or wherever we were trying to go, we used our refund checks. I wouldn't advise that if you have to pay rent or whatever else that you have to pay, but we didn't have really any other responsibilities. So we waited for our refund check to come in the mail or to hit our bank accounts, and we started planning our trip from there. Or it's a good way to start your travel fund from your refund checks, a lump sum, and just put it in your account and don't touch it.
And if you're students, I know we're talking a lot about college students, but I feel like that's one of the times where you have the most flexibility to travel and the most programs at your disposal. So I was able to go to Costa Rica pretty much paid for and get credits for my degree just because they had a travel abroad program, and I think that if I knew then what I know now, I would have done that for 4 years straight. Like I would have done that semester or quarter or whatever, summer. Like I would have found different programs and gone different places. And so use that opportunity, whether you're in undergrad or grad school, to find those programs that will pay for you to go or swap credits or whatever. And then, it's way better than having to do that sort of saving for it once you're out.
Right. Absolutely. All right, so now we're going to dive into the plan. This is probably the #1 question that I get from individuals. What percentage of your income do you put aside every month? This is a question that I get all the time, and there's no like one set answer, but people want to know what is your sort of benchmark for every check? Do you put away 3%, 10%?
Gosh, I'm trying to sit here and calculate and carry the one. What is the percentage? I can give the number. I don't mind. I have a friend that told me about her travel fund. That's how I started doing mine. And she said she put aside $50 a week. And for me, it's interesting because she said per week, it made it digestible. Because if you do that, if you say $200 a month, it's like, whoa, like I can't afford that. But if you say like weekly, I'm going to put, even if it's $30, or $25, if you do it every week, it makes it a little bit easier in your head. So for me, it still is 50, I think it's 55 now dollars a week for me. But remember to, as you go up, as you get your raise, get your bonus, move up in your career, think about your travel fund as well. You can increase that based on what you're making. So for me, I don't know what the percentage is on there, but whatever is comfortable for you, could probably do more. And then whenever lump sums come in, be it a tax refund or whatever, just throw some money in there.
Yeah, I've been all over the place with this. all over the place. So when I was teaching, it was 10% for a while, but like I don't know. I know there's that like this myth that we're trying to dispel that like you have like you need a lot of money to travel. Y'all, like I was a teacher. I just bought a car. I had student loans. Like the pockets were not, the money was not flowing. But it was 10% at first, and then I took my tax refund, put that all in there. Pretty much every penny I could spare, which was maybe like 90% of the money that I was getting from those second jobs, was going into my travel fund. So you kind of find ways to make it work. Now I'm a freelancer, so the money that I get fluctuates every month. So it might be $20 that goes in one month. It might be $200 that goes in another month. But as long as something is going in, that's kind of how I'm on it.
Yeah, I pretty much put 25 in every 2 weeks, and in between that, I do hair on the side. So whatever money I get from my hair, I don't spend it at all. I put it into my savings account. Or really, to piggyback on what Larry said, I have a drawer in my house that I put all of my cash in. I don't carry it around with me, so I just put all my hair money into my dresser drawer, and I don't touch it. So that's what works for me. So I just say whatever works for your income at the time, just try to work around that.
Awesome. Larry, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I get paid twice a month. So I put at least $100 away each paycheck, so $200 a month. If I work any overtime, all the overtime money goes towards those travel accounts, travel funds. But the one important thing I would just like to, tell everybody out there that's watching, you don't have to save a lot of money to travel. Even if you're traveling overseas, like there's always deals, there's always ways to get over there at a low price. A lot of times, especially when I went to Europe for the first time, a lot of people that were traveling from the United States, a lot of them were still in school working part-time, not even working 40 hours a week. But as long as you're, dedicated to where I really want to go somewhere, putting $30, $40 away a paycheck, that adds up. And while you're putting away that $30 and $40 each week, 2-3 months from now, you're not even realizing that $30 is gone. So you want to put more money in that savings, and then before you know it, you're on a flight somewhere in Costa Rica, Africa, your dream place. So you don't have to make a lot of money to travel at all.
Awesome. That's very, very, very good, tangible advice. The next question is about family and friends.
Yes.
Do they help you fund your travel? Have you had to say, Mom, I need X, please help me out? How have they helped you, or how haven't they helped you on your travel journeys?
Well, for me, when I did my study abroad program to Spain in undergrad, I guess it was kind of before GoFundMe. I typed up a letter to my family, had my picture on there, had everything where I was going, what I was doing, and I sent it out to all my family and friends. And my mom told me whatever money you raise from there, I'll kind of just match it. So I got a significant amount of money from doing that. And also, I guess this is a good topic, that we're talking about or whatever, because when I was in Spain, I blew my money in Spain. I was in undergrad, I was like 18. I was at the mall. I blew my money, and my brother actually had to send me money over because I ran out of money while I was over there. So we definitely, when you're out the country, whatever, be careful how you spend your money. Don't spend it on foolishness. Just set a budget and stick to that budget, or you'll be broke.
I've actually a couple years ago, I actually asked, I was trying to get on a last-minute trip, actually not even internationally, domestically, a trip to Cali from New York. And for some reason, everything was expensive, from the hotel to the flight. It was insane. And I was like, I just don't have it right now. So, and I told my family, why I was going, what I needed to go for. And they all chipped in so much, from aunts to cousins to my parents to my sister, brother-in-law. And it wasn't just money, it was points. And so I was able to take the flight on my sister and my brother-in-law's points. So that was, half the cost right there, just because they had extra, points from flying overseas all the time. and a little here and there. Maybe somebody has a hookup on a rental car. Maybe somebody has a hookup on a hotel. You just never know until you ask. And it's not always money. You know, it's people who know people who know people. That can actually get you further than actual like a check. Is that hookup that you may not even know about unless you ask.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's awesome. We're going to hop over to another really popular question. This is towards Tracy and Jamie, but anybody can answer. Do you have any suggestions for how to earn money while on the road? I just received a question from a single mother with a kid who's curious about earning money while traveling.
You go ahead.
Oh, sorry. For me, what I do makes it a little bit easier. Well, okay, I'll backtrack. As a teacher, you know, you can go abroad and teach, you know, English as a second language. You know, there are a lot of options for teachers who are looking to move internationally. So there's a ton of resources out there for that. As a creative now, you know, I can write up an article, send it in, and get paid for that. I can take some pictures and get paid for that. So there are definitely options there. So yeah, I would say as long as you kind of keep your ear to the streets and are, you know, flexible and willing to maybe do a little bit of work while you're traveling, you can definitely earn a buck or two.
Yeah, and I actually use Airbnb on my end when I'm traveling. So almost if I have a trip that is 3 days or more, I always rent my apartment out. And that has helped me tremendously in funding my trips. Even now I have somebody in my apartment, like I'm only gone for a few days. But on my longer trips, like say a Trinidad Carnival or anything, when I went to Tanzania and Zanzibar, which was, I believe, 10 days, I was able to pay for my flight and a lot of my lodging with that trip with Airbnb. And so I would just think about that. Again, it's not for everybody because I know some people are it's a little weird to have somebody in your place, but I think that, you know, over the past year that I've been doing it, it has helped so much with the cost, if anything, the flight for my travel. So you may not be earning per se, you're earning to cover your cost. And that way, less comes out of your travel fund.
Right. Can you talk a little bit more about Airbnb? I know some of our audience uses it, but others, it's this sort of new mythical kind of thing. Can you talk about a little bit about what you're doing with Airbnb?
Sure. So my place is listed in Brooklyn, and whenever I leave, I sort of say it's available, and there's a window. People just coming from everywhere, from other countries who are visiting the city, they message you and say, hey, I'm coming to the city from London or Paris, and I love your place, I love the state. So you start a conversation first with that person and form a little bit of a relationship before they actually make a bid, and then they sort of apply to stay there. And the cool thing about it is it's not creepy like Craigslist, where it's like weird strangers, you're not sure who they are. Like it's not like that, because Airbnb is a social community. So they have references. There's, you know, you can see their Facebook or their reviews. People have said things about them, and you feel safer because it's not just strangers. It's a little bit more assuring when people have said, oh, this was great. You know, they were great to stay at my place. They left it clean, and so it's really, really, really been great. And I also use it when I travel. I book through Airbnb a lot.
Awesome. Anybody else have any tips for earning money while on the road? Nope. Okay, cool. So how can travelers save money while on the road? Because this is something that can be a little bit tricky. If you're eating out every day because you want to try the local foods, or you're going to the markets and you're buying things to bring back home, what are some tips that travelers can use to save money while on the road?
Well, I can say a little bit about that. I can be a bit of a frugal traveler, so especially when I was backpacking, I didn't have a ton of money to play with, so I stayed in hostels. And I know that's like a dirty word for a lot of people, but all the ones that I stayed in, I found were clean, really cool people, nice decor. So that's definitely an option I would throw out there. I was in Portugal and Spain paying less than $30 a night for a bed. So that leaves you some money to spend. I grocery shopped since I was staying at hostels. I didn't have to necessarily eat out every night. I could pick up my own things and make something back at the hostel. I walked a lot. I didn't necessarily always rely on public transportation, and that's a good way to see, whatever city you're in. And yeah, talk to the locals. Ask them, where good things are to do outside of the touristy spots, and chances are they'll lead you to places where, you won't have to spend quite as much.
All right, so now we are general questions before we open it up to Q&A. If you had to give a travel newbie a few steps towards funding their own travel, what would they be?
I would say, well, first pick a destination. And when you want to go, maybe you're trying to go somewhere, maybe try to go to Brazil next March. Figure out the timeline and start cutting back on your expenses. So what I do 2 to 3 months prior to my trips, at least, I stop going out on the weekends, because that's the easy way for you to spend money on food and drinks or whatever. So I call my manager and I tell her I'm free to work Friday and Saturday nights. So, that's automatic. I'm not spending any money when I'm going out or anything because I'm at work and I'm making money. I try to eat out less. I have the luxury of being in the same city as my brother and his sister-in-law, and they cook every night. So I am over their house all the time eating up their food. So I try not to spend money on eating out as much. And I pass up on, many road trips. Somebody might call and say, we're going over here for the weekend. Do you want to come? I'm like, I want to, but I can't go. I'm working, or I'm trying to save some money. So just try to start cutting back on, or try to half your spending. And start putting the money that you would normally spend every day into your savings account.
Awesome. Any other tips?
I would just reiterate from before, just make it automatic. I'm so not a frugal, that's just not the way I think. And so I think that, there are little things. And I think that, everybody made some good points about it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take, how do I save, $300 this week? No. How can I not go to Starbucks 5 times this week? How can I, if you're in a city that has cabs like New York, don't take a cab. Take the train home for a month and imagine how much you save doing that. So just little things you can do that can totally change your outlook as far as your budget goes. And again, if you have that money coming out, whatever the amount is, every week, every 2 weeks, you won't even realize it in 3 months. And you look into your account and you're like, oh my gosh, I have enough to at least go, somewhere in the country, or I can go to Mexico, or I can go somewhere, and you don't even understand how quickly it adds up when you're not noticing it. So that's probably my number one thing. Start it today. Start your draft coming out of your account, and then figure out everything else.
Absolutely. The last question before we go to Q&A. What is something about saving you wish that you'd known before you started?
I wish Travel Noir had existed in this because I can get tips from this chat.
I wish I had known that, I don't know, saving doesn't have to be this painful, troubling experience. Seeing your savings account grow is a reward. It's a good thing. So instead of looking at it from a deficit, look at it as, every little bit that I'm taking out now is going to be a perk for me later. So
you're paying yourself first.
You're paying yourself first.
Right.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so we are going to dive into the Q&As. One first question that I want to answer really quickly before we get to the others. Dre is asking, where do we find these deals? We did an entire Google Plus Hangout called Travel Noir 1K, where we had people come up with itineraries to get to almost all of the regions of the world for under $1,000, including their flight, their accommodations, their food, their activities, everything. So what you can do is you can hop over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Travel Noir, and search for TN1K. and you'll be able to find all of the resources that we use to find those deals. They were really good ones. All right, so we are going to move to April's question. So April says, I'm planning my first big trip for the next year sometime in the summer. I put $1,000 in an account for it a few days ago. How much more would I need to save up to have a great 2-week vacation in Europe?
Define great. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure great would, it is sort of subjective, but I'm assuming that April will be able to see a couple sites. She will be able to eat some good food, and I'm not assuming that it would be like a vacation fit for a queen, But would she need to? I mean, Europe is. You can have the high end of Europe. You can have the mid of Europe. You can have the low end of Europe. There's really levels for every country in every region. You can stay like a king or a queen in India, or you can stay like the locals in Bali. It really depends on the kind of experience that you want. So I don't know if anybody who has some ridiculous experience in Europe will say that, all right, you cannot go to Europe for $50 and try and spend 2 weeks there, because that just won't work.
I think one of the best tools that I found is just go to Lonely Planet, and if you search a country and go to like money and cost, they'll give you kind of a breakdown of what you can get for a certain amount of money per day. And there are other websites that do the same, but that helped me set my travel budget. And while I wasn't doing anything extravagant, it helped me see, okay, in one country I can get by on $60 a day. In another country, maybe it can be like $40. So I think that'll help you scale your trip a little bit.
That's some really great advice. Larry, were you going to say something?
The first, when I went to Europe in January that just passed, I was there for 3 weeks, and I was in London, Paris, Venice, and Rome. And London can be very expensive, but not really. I would kind of compare it to New York. You can have a great time in New York and not spend a lot of money, or you can go to New York and spend your whole paycheck. So I would say when you're in those countries, find the locals. Locals are your best friends. They can show you the best of the country, the best of the city without, even have to pull out your card. The first time I went to Europe, I took $1,500 as spending money. Looking back on it, I probably could have, just spent $1,000, but I like to eat a lot, so yeah.
Got you.
But,
okay. Yeah. The next question comes from Courtney. So she says, how do you manage to plan a good vacation when not all of your friends are on the same level? Most people aren't saving to afford it. Therefore, I always feel held back from going anywhere, and I'm hesitant to go alone.
Okay, I can answer that because I've traveled with lots of different people. I think, first of all, she's right. I think that your friends aren't always going to either make the same amount you do or see travel as a priority the same way you do. So I think that whatever the case is, one way to go about it is to find some people who do see it as a priority. So I think that Travel Noir is a great community of people, and there's tons of people looking for trips all the time. There's communities on Facebook that are planning trips. Find a trip that's actually already going on and see if you can get on. I think last year I jumped on a trip, 2 years ago, jumped on a trip to Curacao for the first time. I only had a few friends who were interested, and it was a trip of like 100 and some people, but I didn't know most of the people there. But it sounded great, and I was like, well, can you go around the Caribbean? So I went anyway, and now I have so many more friends and a group I know is a good time. And so even if your close friends aren't the ones with you, you can find a group of, like a new crew of people to travel with if you're comfortable trying to sort of travel with new people. So just go on Facebook, find the different groups and see if there's some other people you can travel with. And your friends may decide it looks like a lot of fun and join you.
Perhaps. All right, so this question comes from Candy. She says, what are some travel savings advice for those that are unemployed?
You gotta hustle. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that, a lot of people have their full-time job or whatever that is, or you freelance, but a lot of people also have their side hustle, and that's where
Right.
you need to leverage that side hustle. Whether it's hair or it's, when I first moved to New York, I was hustling tickets to concerts, like anything I can get my hands on to make a dollar. Like I was doing it. I used to tell folks I would sell anything not like nailed down to the floor. So I think you may have to just be creative. If you're not getting a steady paycheck, think of ways to use whatever your talent is, because there's definitely one there. Find out what that thing is, and then use that to sort of start your income flow. It may take a little bit longer, obviously, because you're not getting lump sums every 2 weeks. But use your talents to your abilities and gradually build up that travel fund.
I would say figure out what the problem is as to why you don't have a job, and try to get one, and then you can start saving. You can't save if you don't have any income. So definitely, to piggyback on what she said, I do hair on the side. I have cousins that have ridiculous amount of kids. I have a cousin that has 6 kids, and she asked me to babysit some weekends. So I'll babysit her kids on Saturday nights and everything. So definitely try to find something that you're good at, or find a part-time job somewhere that you can start saving up for.
And you can also look into jobs that will specifically like pay you to travel. Like you can be a nanny, or you can house sit, or you can, I don't know, do like wolfing or something. Like, I don't know if you're into farm things, but there are jobs where you can like get paid to go away. So I would do some research on those.
There's and you also mentioned it. That's something that's very, very interesting. So right now I'm in Greece, and there are some individuals who they leave their houses, like when they travel, like long-term vacation. They may have a really nice house. Somebody that I met on a plane over to Athens has an American couple house sitting. And that's a free home for like 2 weeks. And so, house sitting is also, it's like, you just have to be able to be aware of your surroundings to house sit and be a trustworthy person. Like, you don't need any extra, ridiculous skills. So that's another thing. And you can do that in the U.S. as well. So you just gotta, everybody's right. You just gotta hustle, and you gotta find out what that thing is. Everybody has a gift. Everybody has something special that the world needs, and once you figure that out, you can be able to offer it. Does anybody else have any other insights they wanted to add to that? No? Okay. All right, so the next question is from Tania. She says, in terms of finances, how do you avoid dipping into your savings when you are faced with a hurdle?
I'll let you know when I find out.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can really speak on that one. I graduated from college December of 2012, and originally I had moved to New York for a couple of months trying to find a job up there, but I ended up moving back to Baltimore because I found a job with eBay. But 2 of my loans that I took out in college are private loans, and with private loans they don't lower your monthly payments and things like that. So at first I was paying a ridiculous amount per month, in student loans, close to $800 a month. So I would say that was my biggest hurdle, but no matter what happened, I never touched my travel money because that allowed me to keep my sanity. So I would just say don't touch that money, because with that hurdle, I feel that traveling, getting away is the best escape. It's the best remedy. So if you know that at the end of the tunnel, this hurdle, you're gonna overcome it, at least have somewhere to go to celebrate. But like, you know what, I made it. Don't touch the travel money. That's the best thing. Don't touch it.
The caveat is that you're saying that all the bills should be paid, right? So don't not pay your bills and have your travel fund. Okay.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
If it's a hurdle, I'm assuming the language of hurdle means that it's something that's not, it's semi-serious. And I think that in that case, you need to prioritize. I think that if there is something that comes up that's important, then that one time, then you may have to, but if you don't make it a regular thing, you should be okay. You can't dip into your travel fund every month because it won't be a fun. Like, that's not a fun. But I think that if you do it once in a year, then it's not that bad, you know. And I think that what will be helpful is if you're also saving, your savings account shouldn't always be your travel account. So sometimes if you keep those separately, if you have your savings account and you have a hurdle come up, you can take your money out of that. And then hopefully your travel funds can sort of stay intact. I mean, if you keep those separate, then you should be okay. And even if you do have to dip in, again, if you make it a one-time thing or every once in a while thing, you should be okay. And also replenish it. If you take out $500 because something happened, make sure you put that back in, and then keep going.
Right. All right, so we are coming up to the very last question. This question comes from Mimi G Productions. And the question is, do you all maintain your personal savings fund the same way that you maintain your travel fund?
Kind of. To piggyback on what Tracy said, I have two separate savings accounts. I have one with Wells Fargo, and I have one that's a private account with a private bank here. So I try to put money in both accounts every month or every 2 weeks. So I have a percentage, like usually the money I get from my hair, I either put it in my drawer, or I might put some in my account, or I have an automatic withdrawal coming out every 2 weeks for my travel fund. So that's what works for me. I just keep two separate accounts and put money into both whenever I can.
Yeah, for me, I put money into my savings and my travel fund every week, but and it's like an automatic draft of the same amount of money. So I try not to fluctuate in terms of, okay, I'll maybe put X amount of dollars this month, but X amount of dollars next month. I try and keep it as flat as possible. I typically put more in my savings than I do in my travel fund. And so that's what I do. But the basis of all of that is the automatic drafts. I don't even want to see the money. I just want, to know what I have to work with. And I do the automatic drafts the day after I get my paycheck. So, yeah. Anyone else?
I think it just depends on where you are in your current savings. So I think that there was a time when I was putting, like you said, a lot more money into my savings account because I realized, like, what if something happens? I have no money. So my savings account was that important to me at the time. And then over time, I was able to amass a certain amount of money to where I was like, okay, this is good. Still put money in there, but lower the amount that was going in, and was able to raise the amount of money I was putting into my travel account. So it just depends on where you are. If you have that cushion everyone talks about already, you could probably put a little bit more money in your travel fund, but it just depends on where you are financially right now.
Right, absolutely. Anybody else?
I think another tip of advice, if you're not the best with saving money, I would recommend sometimes if you have like a car note or rent, maybe pay a little extra each month towards your car note or towards your rent if you're planning a trip. So say for example, if your car note is $250 and you pay $325 a month, 4 or 5 months down the road, when it's time for you to take that trip, you may not have a car note due for 2 months because you didn't paid it off, paid it in advance. That helps. That's something that I've done also.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I want to, before we sort of wrap things up, I want everyone to know where to find each of you. Everybody is on Twitter, so after this chat, if you have any additional questions, feel free to hit up everybody. We're going to start with Larry. Where can everybody find you?
Okay, so on Instagram and in Twitter, I have the same name, LWillJR90. Follow me. You got questions, I'm here. Yep, that's where you can find me.
All right. Miriam?
Miriam or what? Me?
Oh, Miriam.
Oh, okay. I'm on Instagram, BUN_MI on Instagram, and on Twitter is Boombastic, is BOOMBASTTIIC, I think. I don't know. Or email miriamejide@gmail.com. So feel free to contact me if you need to.
Got it. All right. Jamie?
Okay, I am on Twitter and Instagram at njme, EN_JAY_ME. You can find my digital portfolio of photography, writing, videography stuff at mynomadiclens.com. Email nmnjiie@gmail.com.
All right, and Tracy.
My blog is Weekend Travel Addict, and that is across the board. I'm BK Travel Addict on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook.
Okay. There is some weird echo happening that I don't understand.
We're like in the Matrix.
Okay, so with that said, I want to thank everyone for joining in. We will try and rake through some of the questions that you asked. And again, thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful Saturday. Bye.
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 Bye.